सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। हर नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम। The same problem that I had yesterday is persisting today. I cannot see myself on the screen for some reason that only YouTube knows. But I see that I'm visible on the screen. I have switched it on my phone and the screen is visible as it is here. So yesterday's Prarabdha is continuing. We are studying about Prarabdha Karma and the many ways by which Prarabdha works is like this. The situations will be nice, somewhat nice, but it cannot be perfectly conducive all the time. It can be also perfectly conducive. We never know. Just have to go through this prarabdha until a solution is found. Om samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam sadgurum brahmavidwaram sadgurum brahmavidwaram. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Om Shri Vidyaranya Swamine Namaha. So the verses here are on the role of prarabdha in giving us experience. Prarabdha is that which gives us different experiences. It cannot and does not prove or disprove the reality of the world. Prarabdha only gives us experiences. Whatever have to come to us are coming to us through the force of prarabdha. The prarabdha does not have the role of saying that the world is real or unreal, whatever it is. Or even if self-knowledge, it does not have anything to do with self-knowledge also. If can the experience be complete or fulfilling if we know that the objects are unreal? Anuno jayate bhogaha kalpitaihi swapnavastubhihi jagradvastubhirapyevam asatyaihi bhogaishyatam. Anunaha. Nuna means little bit left. For example, una in telling time, pancha una shadvadanam. If it is said 5 minutes yet to 6 o'clock, una means there is some gap, there is some lap, it is not complete. Una means it is complete. Anuna jayate bhogaha. Bhoga is enjoyment, jayate is takes place. Kalpitaihi, with illusory or imagined, swapna vastubihi, objects of the dream state, jagrad vastubihi, objects of the waking state also, api, evam, asatyaihi, with illusory or imaginary objects, bhogaha ishyatam. Enjoyment is possible even with illusory objects. Even when we go to a nice movie, we know the movie is illusory. We know the movie is not real. It has been taken by somebody, it has been imagined by somebody, and the props have been used, the acting has been done, the movie has been shot. It is not real, but still that gives enjoyment. In the same way, complete enjoyment takes place with illusory objects of the dream state. Enjoyment means here experiencing that. It can be joy or it can be sorrow. Enjoyment doesn't mean only joyfulness, it can also be sorrow, the experience of sorrow. Basically, we mean the experience is complete. It is possible with objects in the waking state also. The idea is the objects are delusory in the dream state, and the Shastras say the objects are delusory in the waking state also. But in the waking state as well as in the dream state, even though the objects are delusory, our enjoyment can be possible. We can experience, even though the objects or what our sense organs perceive, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. These are the 5 objects of sound, form, and light, and color and form. Then taste, smell, and feeling through the skin. These are the 5 objects that constitute the world. Complete enjoyment takes place even though it is illusory. In the dream world, all that we experience gives us total satisfaction, and it is falsified when we wake up. When we wake up, we realize that the dream world is not, what we saw was not there actually. In the same way, in the waking state also, even though the waking state gets falsified in the dream state, and the waking state gets the waking state of our experience of this world gets falsified when we attain the knowledge of the self. This waking state is falsified, but yet we do experience the waking state as we experience the dream state, and go through its experiences of joy and sorrow also. Prarabdha karma is not opposed to the knowledge of the self. The knowledge of the self is knowing who I am. Prarabdha karma is also there. It is giving me the results of the actions that were done in the past. Yadi vidya paknuvita jagat prarabdha ghatini tadasyannatu mayatva bodhena tadapahvaha tadapahnavaha. Yadi vidya apaknuvita jagat, if the knowledge of the self will remove the knowledge of the world, prarabdha ghatini, destroyer of the fructifying karma, tada syat, would become na, not tu, but mayatva bodhena, with the knowledge of its unreality, tad apahnavaha, its disappearance. If self-knowledge would obliterate the world, then it would become the destroyer of the fructifying karma. If, that is, if I know the self, and that knowledge of the self completely erases the thought of the world from our mind. We know that when we realize the self, we know that the world does not exist. So then the question is, it should also be the destroyer of fructifying karma, prarabdha karma. When I know the world is not there, then the prarabdha karma also should not be there. With the understanding of the knowledge of its unreality, because we understand that the world is unreal, then the prarabdha karma is also unreal. Its disappearance doesn't happen. Why doesn't the prarabdha karma doesn't disappear after a person realizes the self? Very interesting example here. Pujya Guruji says to understand this better. When we understand that the sky is not really blue, it still appears to be blue for us. Even when we understand that when we see that in the water that we see in the desert is only a mirage, the water does appear to our eyes in the desert. So in the same way, the example of the magic show here illustrates that self-knowledge and prarabdha karma are not opposed to each other, which means there is no connection with prarabdha karma and self-knowledge. Prarabdha karma's work stops with removing the thought of the world. Only the self alone is there. The world does not exist. Prarabdha karma is like the clouds. The sky is not obliterating the clouds. The clouds are coming, the clouds are going. Prarabdha karma just moves like the clouds in the sky in the life of a self-realized person. अनपहृत्य अनपहृत्य लोकास्तद् इन्द्रजालमिदं त्विति जानत्येवानपहृत्य भोगं मायात्वधीस्तथा unapahnuत्य. Without removing lokaha, the world, the people, tad indrajalam, the magic show, idam, this too, but iti, thus, jananti eva, knows very well, unapahnuत्य, without removing bhogam, the enjoyment, mayatva dhihi, the knowledge of the illusory nature, tatha, in the same way. This is also a very interesting example. People know a magical show to be unreal, but this does not involve the destruction of the magical show. The magic show does not cease to exist just because people are aware, even when they watch the magic show, they are aware that the magic show is unreal, but the magic show does not cease to exist. In the same way, jananti eva apaknutya bhogam mayatva dhihi tatha. In the same way, it is possible to know the illusory nature of the world, of the external objects, without causing their disappearance or the cessation of enjoyment from them. We can enjoy the world knowing that the world is unreal. We can still enjoy the world. Knowing that the mirage is not there, we can still admire the beauty of the shimmering waters in the desert. Knowing that the sky is not blue, we can still enjoy the blueness of the sky. Or we can see how it turns purple or pink or grey or pitch black. We can enjoy the colors of the sky even though we know that actually those colors are not there. So in the same way, we can enjoy, and sometimes when we get identified, we also experience suffering from the world of objects, even though the realized person, not we, the realized person knows that the world is unreal. Even though he knows the world is unreal, he can still enjoy the different facets of the world, the beauties of the world. Self-knowledge transforms our vision of the world, and prarabdha karma makes the wise man go through his joys and sorrows. So they are both like the cloud and the sky. They just exist side by side. They don't interfere with each other. Just because the person has attained self-knowledge, it does not mean that the results of all the actions that he has done in the past will not be experienced. Whether it is good actions or bad actions, they will be experienced, and prarabdha karma is to do that work. Yatra tvasya jagat swatma pashyet kastatra kenakam kim jigret kim vadadveti shrutau tu bahugoshitam Tena dvaitam apaknutya vidyodeti na chanyatha tatha cha vidusho bhogah katham syat iti chet shrunu. Yatra tu asya jagat swatma, for whom the world has become his own self, pashyet, he will see, kaha tatra kena kam kim jigret, kaha, whom will he see? When everything has become one, when I experience this world as I, the self, then who else is there? Tatra, Kena, with what will I see? If I'm seeing some duality, it is with the eyes. But the whole universe is I. So how will the universe see itself? With what? Come, whom will he see? Kim, what will he see? Jigret, what will he smell? Kim, Vadet, what will he speak? Va iti, Shrutau, in the Vedas too. Indeed, Bahu Ghoshitam. The Vedas have mentioned many times that when the person realizes self, he just becomes one with everything. There is no other for that person. So that person will speak only the language of love. For the outsider, he will know nothing else except the language of love because there is no other for that person. Everybody is inclusive in that person's life. It is almost like the state of a mother in a family. The mother loves the husband, the mother loves the children, the mother loves the members of the extended family, the mother loves the members of her own family, and in that way, she sees everybody as herself and herself in everybody else. So it's the same as the wise man. There is no difference. When you say the wise man is one with everything, we should understand with this language of love only. It is not that he becomes like the chapati dough, which is one with everything. Even though independently you can put it in balls and make nice dolls out of it, but the chapati dough is actually one. It is not that way. There are many, many differences in everything in all the world that we see. But the wise man, he knows the self in him. He knows that is a self in everybody. And so he sees everybody and everything with the eyes of love, with the eyes of compassion. That is what this oneness means. Whenever we are studying, I am one with everything, I am one with everything, then that oneness will show in our work, the oneness will show in our love, the oneness will show in our actions. Just like now, I've got so used to this black screen that I'm not really worried now that I'm not able to see my face. So everything has become one, myself and the screen. Tena dvaitam apaknutya. Because of that, because of this oneness, this individual, he has destroyed the duality. Vidya udeti. That person, knowledge arises in that person. The thought or the experience with the thought of oneness arises. Nacha anyatha, not otherwise. Tathacha, this being so, vidushaha, for the wise man, bhogaha katham, how can the wise person enjoy? The mother does not have any special enjoyment for herself. When everybody in the family, it applies to the father also, but whenever it comes to the family, we talk of the mother because she is the one who emotionally connects with everybody. Everybody's joy is the mother's joy. Everybody's sorrow is the mother's sorrow. So in that way, for the enlightened person, there is no individuality means there is no something special or secret for him. Even in the family, the father also, or the grandfather for that matter, suppose is the patriarch of a big family. If he gets a lot of something to eat, he is not going to sit alone and eat it secretly, keep it in a box, and then keep eating every day. He's going to call all his grandchildren, all his daughters, sons, daughters-in-law, his wife, and any other extended member of the family, even the cats and dogs, and distributing whatever is there to everybody. Why does he do that? Because of the feeling of oneness. So when we study Vedanta with the light of the language of love and compassion, then we will never make a mistake. We will the ego or the arrogance or the selfish pride of knowledge also will not come, because the Vedanta that is being spoken about in the Upanishads is nothing but the language of oneness, the language of love, the language of equality, the language of inclusiveness, the language of administering well with the best intention of everybody in mind. Everybody includes the whole earth of all the five elements, the animal, the plants, the human beings, everything, all inclusive for the welfare of all. That is the language of love. That is the language of Vedanta. The vision of Vedanta talks about that vision of compassion, of love for all. Bhogaha katham syat iti chet. If that's question, then you listen. How will this person enjoy? So the questions are, doubts are, at that time of realization, for whom the world has indeed become his own self, who will see whom? With what instrument will he see? What will he smell? What will he speak? Thus indeed has been proclaimed many times in the Vedas. Yatra va asya sarvam atmaiva bhut tat kenakam jigret tat kenakam pashyet tat kenakam shrunuyat tat kenakam abhivadet tat kenakam manvita tat kenakam vijaniyat, says the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. When the world has become or is known as oneself, the world has become oneself means I am standing on this earth and I am thinking that I am an individual person. But the one of self-realization has realized that I am not this individual person standing with 2 feet on this earth. I am this whole earth and everything that surrounds it. The whole earth, the space, the outer space, the other planets, the galaxies, and all the beings and all the people, all the birds, animals, plants, everything I am is the understanding that the person has. Is the thought process in that person. The thought evokes, whenever we hear many masters of the past and in the present say, I just sat in meditation and I did not know what happened. I just became one with the universe. We have heard so many stories like this. I became one with the earth. I could feel like I'm flowing like the water. I could feel I am the steady mountain. I could feel the wind blowing on the trees. I could feel like I am the branches of the tree waving in the wind. I could feel I am the fruit that is dropping down. I could feel that little boy taking up this fruit and enjoying that juicy fruit. So these kind of experiences is that thought becoming a reality. The actualization of the realization of the self is what manifests as experience. We don't need to aim for the experience. We don't need to have the experience to know the truth, to know the reality. Even though we don't really experience that love can conquer all hearts, we can be with love. We can aspire to be with love. So the student is asking, what will that person, he has got no individuality, everything is him, so there is no he and other. So there is no he and the smelling, he and the seeing, he and the tasting, he and the touching and the feeling, he and the hearing. So there are no two, there is only one. From the statements of the Vedas, it is clear that self-knowledge arises after the destruction of duality. Duality is gone At that time, self-knowledge arises, not otherwise. This being so, how can there be any enjoyment for a wise man? There is no duality. There is knowledge alone. I don't see the world, meaning when I go into the dream state, I don't see the waking state. So how can I, it is like asking, when I go into the dream state, I don't see the waking state. So how can I enjoy the waking state? The person is not enjoying the waking state, but the person is experiencing the dream state. So in the dream state is experienced. In the waking state is experienced. In the same way, in the realization state, the state of realization is experienced. In what way is it experienced? If you want to know, let us answer this question. The teacher says, the Guru answers, Sushupti Vishaya Mukti Vishaya Vashuti Striti Uktam Swapyaya Sampatyoho Iti Sutra Hyatisputam. Brahma Sutra Hi Atisputam. Brahma Sutra chapter 4, chapter 4, part 4, sutra number 16. Swapyaya Sampatyoho. Swapyaya Sampatyoho. As regards a Vaidika statement, Sushupti Vishaya, referring to the deep sleep state, Mukti Vishaya, referring to final liberation, when the body is dropped, which means Videha Mukti. The person does not require the physical body to experience whatever he has to experience. Without the physical body, the person can live, continue to live. That is Videha Mukti, when the body is dropped. Va Shrutihi. The Vaidika statement, tu, as regards iti uktam. In this manner, it is said, Swapyaya Sampatyoho, of deep sleep and final liberation. Iti sutre, in the aphorism, he, indeed, atisputam, very clearly it is being mentioned. As regards the Vaidika statement thus quoted by you, so the student is quoting a Vaidika statement. Who is there to hear? Who is there to see? Who is there to taste? Who is there to smell or touch? So regarding that, Bhagavan Vedavyasa has written the Brahma Sutras, and in the Brahma Sutras, as regarding the Vaidika statement you have quoted, it refers to the deep sleep state or final liberation. It has been indeed very clearly said that in the aphorism, Swapyaya Sampatyoho, in the Brahma Sutra. Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavan is giving the commentary on the Brahma Sutras. He says one can only misunderstand the meaning of the Upanishad mantras if they are understood out of context. The meaning of the Upanishads, we can misunderstand them only if we don't understand it in the context. If we take it out of context and study the meaning, we will misunderstand it. If they are understood out of context or with a prejudiced mind, purposefully, if I want to disprove, if I hate somebody, such a person is not fit to even listen to the words of Upanishads or argue about it, because the feeling of oneness is not there, which is manifesting as hatred towards somebody else, and they will never realize the truth. For understanding their true meaning, we should listen to the knowledge from a guru well versed in the scriptures and with self-knowledge, or study with the help of authentic commentaries. When the body of the wise man perishes, he is said to have attained a state of Videha Mukti, bodiless liberation. That is, when the body drops, there is no more the physical body of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Everything has merged with the five elements. The person who was living inside is now free. Videha. He does not have a body, but he is free because he has realized the self. He has realized that he is that Parama Atman, that supreme self, and so he is free. Otherwise, simply death does not free anybody. Before death, we should acquire the knowledge of the self. And after the knowledge of the self comes, and we are established in that knowledge, and then the death of the physical body happens, then that person is supposed to be a Videha Mukta. He is free. He is not bound by the body, mind, and intellect. Videha Mukta, bodiless liberation. As long as he lives, he perceives the world, transacts with it, and experiences joys and sorrows, even though he knows that all is an illusion. Just like we know that the blue sky is not actually blue, yet we look at the sky and we say it is blue in color. When we are discussing with others, we tell the sky is so beautiful today. What is this lovely blue that I see in the sky? It is so clear. The sky is so clear, we will even be amazed and astonished and remark to others, even though we know the sky is not blue in color. In the same way, we will be amazed and astonished at the beauty of the world, the happenings in the world. We will go through the sufferings of the world. Also with the world, we will go through the sufferings, even though we know that this world is not real. Well, if we say this world is not real, in the modern language of quantum physics, we can understand the statement of Vedanta in the light of quantum physics. Even the Nobel Prize has been given for this particular understanding of quantum physics. What is it when we say the world is not real? You say in front of me there is this table on which this laptop is there. This table is very real. I call it a table. But actually, if I take a microscope and I analyze, I come to one particle in this table and I take that particle into a very, very powerful microscope. I may not see, but the scientists have discovered that this particle contains many, many subatomic particles, electrons, protons, neutrons, quarks, femtometer, very, very small, microscopic measurement, not nano, micro, even lesser than nano is femto. To that measurement, they have discovered that there are particles and these particles are floating in space. So what I see here is only space. It is not solid matter. That is what it means. The world is not real. The world is not real. The world is not real means it is not as we see it. It is not as we see it as a table, chair, tree, lamp, or building, or animal, plant, human, earth, mountain, waters, oceans. You dissect everything into particles. You just imagine that you are a scientist pouring through the particles. You go to the electrons, protons, neutrons, subatomic particles of a minute hair which is fallen from the head. You discover that there was no hair in the first place. And then why should we bother about I have got beautiful hair or my gray hair or black hair? My hair is black, yours is gray, comparing with somebody, fighting over that when it is not there at all. That hair itself is not there. Why the hair? The head itself is not there. The body itself is not there. What are we talking about? I am beautiful. I am tall. I am short. I am dark. I am rich. I am poor. The money that we say is there, the money itself is not there. It is only particles of matter that are floating in space. And if we try to grasp it, it is like if you at the particulate level, if you try to grasp something, you also being at the particulate level, it's impossible. Like the agarbati's smoke, you cannot capture that smoke. It seems as if it is there like a stick. It is moving, but you cannot capture it because it is not there actually in that place. So this is what we mean by the world is not real. The world is not real all the time. From a knowledge point of view, the world is not real. When the body of the wise man perishes, he attains Videha Mukti, bodiless state. As long as he lives, he perceives the world, transacts in it, and experiences joys and sorrows also, even though he knows all that is an illusion. However, when the body is dropped, there remains no one to perceive the world. When the body is gone, there is no body to perceive the world, as the falsified individuality merges with the infinite truth. What is perceiving through the body is the falsified individual or the ahamkara. The ahamkara which has not got the knowledge. The ahamkara which is full of rajas and tamas. Tamas means ignorance, rajas means a misapprehension, born out of that ignorance. Born out of that ignorance of non-apprehension is rajas and tamas. While living, the person is predominantly having rajas and tamas, then he will believe this world is real and transact with the world. But when the mind is quietened and he is also getting the knowledge of the self, the thought, the aham brahmasmi, or ayam atma brahma, prajnanam brahma, Sachidananda Parabrahma Aham, or Tattvamasi. These kind of thoughts he has got. He has contemplated on those thoughts and assimilated the meaning of those thoughts. He has merged with that and he has realized the self. And such a person, it is like in the same example of quantum physics, when you are, as long as you are the physical body, you are experiencing this world of matter because the thought, the knowing individual is seeing through the body and believing through the body, and so is experiencing matter. Once this knowledge is there, yet you are still seeing the world as it is because the body is still there. When the body drops, the body has become atomized. Basically, the body goes into that state of space where we say, where we discuss in quantum physics that the table is nothing but empty space. In the same way, on death, the body becomes its original state of empty space. And in that state of empty space, this individual is there, and since he sees through that empty space only, there is nothing to obstruct his vision. There is no form outside of him, and he also merges in that self. He also becomes one with that space, one with that consciousness, and there is no duality. It is like in many shlokas and even in the Upanishad, Taile Tailam, Jale Jalam, Jivan Muktananda Lahari says, just like oil merges with oil, Akashat Patitam Toyam Yatha Gacchati Sagaram Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Shri Keshavam Prati Gacchati. Just like the waters of all the rivers and the clouds fall down and go along with the rivers to the ocean, in the same way, Sarvadeva Namaskaraha, the obeisance or the attention, the respectful consciousness of all the gods go towards Keshava, that supreme consciousness which fills this whole universe like the ocean. The consciousness of that individual becomes one with the universal consciousness, and the body drops. The body at the time of death, it drops, and the body merges into its elements, and consciousness merges into consciousness. So there is no independent individual existence for this person. He has realized that state of oneness, the truth. Sushupti Vishaya. So, however, when the body is dropped, there remains no one to perceive the world, as a falsified individuality merges with the infinite truth. It is like the reflection becoming one with the sun. When you kick the bucket, really kicking the bucket in this way, it's a double entendre, double meaning. Kick the bucket is when you kick the bucket of water, we don't need to kick it because Mahalakshmi is there in everything. We can push the bucket of water with our hands. The bucket that was reflecting the sun, the water in the bucket was reflecting the light of the sun. So the bucket here is a body and the water is a prana. The prana is reflecting the light of consciousness. That is the sun in the human being. In the outside world, the water in the bucket is reflecting the light of the sun. When you pour the water out, when the bucket falls and the water goes out, when this body falls, the prana moves out of the body. When there is no water, the sunlight does not reflect in the water. The sunlight merges with the sunlight means there was no sunlight in the first place. The reflection was only a chance happening. In the same way, there is no special reflection here. There is only that consciousness. So when the body drops and dissolves into its 5 elements, the prana is also out of the body. As long as the prana is contained in the body like water, that prana reflects this consciousness like the sun. When the prana is no more, it is out of it just drops off completely, it moves away. The consciousness remains as it is without any reflection. Or in this language, it says the reflection merges with the consciousness. So there's nothing to merge there. It is just one. It just is one. It's a very, very beautiful understanding of this example is so beautiful. An example becomes very beautiful when it completely reveals the truth in our mind. We are able to revel in it and we are able to really understand what exactly is being said here. So the disciple insists that the self-knowledge will make the world disappear and no individuality will remain to perceive. The Guru answers. So the disciple is being a disciple. He's still in the process of learning. And the disciple is still in the body, mind and intellect. Seeing through the body, mind and intellect. Trying to become like the master. To know the truth. But until that happens, the disciple will be the disciple. And he will ask, but he's still seeing the world, right? So it is okay, now you're talking after his death, everything dissolves and all that. But what is the use of living? You can enjoy the world. You can enjoy happily. You can eat whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. Why should you do tapasya? Why should you drop everything? Why should you withdraw yourself from society to know the truth? And then you know the truth and there is no difference. You still see the world. You still have to go and suffer. If you have some stomach pain or headache or whatever, the suffering is there. Then you still have your own habits. The habits also don't leave you. You are enjoying the habits or you're suffering your habits. What is the use of self-realization? If it's only after death, Videha Mukti. Only in Videha Mukti you can experience that oneness and you cannot experience that oneness at this point of time means what is the use? The student asks. Then the student says, why should the world remain for the person who has realized the truth now itself? So the Guru is answering, what happens? Why is the world remaining? Because the Guru has a work to do. The Guru has something left to do. What is that work to do? Anyatha Yagna Valkyadehe Acharyatvam na sambhavet Dvaita Drishtava Vidvattam Dvaita Drishtau na Vagvadet. Anyatha, otherwise, Yagnavalkyadehe, like sages like Yagnavalkya or Shuka Brahma Maharishi, Acharyatvam, the teacher, the state of being a preceptor or a teacher, na sambhavet, it is not possible. Dvaita Drishtau, when the duality is seen, Avidvatta, state of being unwise, not enlightened, Dvaita Adrishtau, when duality is not seen, not Vagvadet, he will not speak or teach. If the world also disappears for the one who has awakened to the reality, then that person cannot be a teacher of this knowledge to others like Yagnavalkya. Yagnavalkya taught this knowledge to others to his disciples, to Maitreyi, the Brihadaranya Upanishad is all the discussion between Maitri and Yagna. So he taught this knowledge. If for the teacher also this world disappears on knowing the self, then how can this knowledge be passed on to other students who have not yet realized? So, how will he speak? To whom will he speak? Or to whom will he teach this? The Mundaka Upanishad says, for gaining self-knowledge, one must approach a teacher well versed in the scripture. Shrotriyam, Samitpanihi, Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam. Well established in the truth. Brahmanishta. Established in that consciousness of oneness. If with self-knowledge, one's body, organs of perception, mind, and the world sees, we will never have a live guru to teach us self-knowledge. Without being taught this self-knowledge, there is no way we are going to realize this. Without being shown that reflection of the sun in the water is thinking it is like we can take that example as ourselves, but just to give it as an outside example, I'm saying that reflection of the sun in the water is thinking I am beautiful, I am broken, I am being played with, I am being mistreated. So many things are there that reflection of the sun seems like an entity going through many experiences. That reflection is not true at all. It is the sun alone which is there, and nothing of this affects the sun. The sun is not broken, the sun is not in parts, the sun is not shimmering, the sun is not being manipulated. Nothing is being done. It is beyond all that. But the reflection is thinking that I am being all this. So who is there to teach this reflection that you are not this, you are that sun? It is only the guru, a greater reflection of the consciousness, can teach this reflection that you are not this reflection, my dear. Look up there, you are that sun. In the same way, you are not this body, mind, and intellect, the suffering being, my dear. Look up, and you are that one consciousness, that you are, that sun you are. So this teaching is not possible if the Jivan Mukta Purusha, the master who has realized the truth, who is aware of the truth, also does not experience the world. So, even though the master has realized the truth and become one with the truth within, outside this duality is there, and he has experienced the duality. And what is the purpose? Like, there is no need for the earth for him. There is no need for the world for this master. Then what is the purpose? There is no need for life also. What is the purpose? Life is still there. The world is still experienced. The body, mind, and intellect are there. The purpose is to teach this knowledge to others, to other students. This whole earth itself is only a big university. And we are all coming to this plane of earth to know something in one field or the other. We are knowing something. So that is why we have come to this earth. Even the masters come to the earth for knowing and for teaching. Whenever we have to know something, there has to be a teacher for that. Without a teacher, we cannot know, we cannot learn something completely. So the wise man does get liberation whilst living and continues to function in the world with the notion that it is false. He, like how the example of the magic show, you know the magic show is false, yet you are watching and you are enjoying it. In the same way, the wise man knows this world is false. And by falsity, what do we mean? Everything is in a particulate state. There is no fixed reality for this world. It is only in the particle state. And it is zero particle state, in fact. It is only the state of consciousness that is there everywhere. The disciple finds one more state besides deep sleep and the bodiless liberation, where there is no perception of the world, which he thinks must be liberation while living. So the disciple is bringing up with one more state where the world is not perceived. And so he thinks that state of that state is maybe liberation while living. निर्विकल्प समाधौ तु द्वैता दर्शन हेतुतः से सैवापरोक्ष विद्येति चेत् सुषुप्तिस्तथा न किम्. Nirvikalpa samadhau tu, in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, where there is no thought in the mind. Vikalpa means thought. There is no other thought in the mind. There is only the thought of the self, of that consciousness. That consciousness grips the mind completely. The mind is very solid and very steady. Even though the eyes may be open sometimes, the person will not see anything in the world outside. The eyes are closed in meditation. But even if that person wants to open the eyes and wants to engage in the world, in that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, there is no movement that is experienced because the absorption is so deep within. Two, then dvaita adarshana hedutaha, in nirvikalpa samadhi, in that deep state of meditation where there is no other thought except the thought that I am. Only the thought is there, there is no other thought. In that state also there is no duality. There is no dvaita darshana. There is no I and the other. Saiva, Sayeva, Aparoksha Vidyeti. Is this that Aparoksha Vidya? Is this that knowledge that you're talking about? Chet, Sushuptis Tathanakim. Then in deep sleep, like that, it is not there. Why? Only in the state of meditation it is there, but in deep sleep it is not there. The direct realization is that which happens in the state of nirvikalpa samadhi alone because of the non-experience of duality. Reply, then why not apply the same argument in the deep sleep state? If the non-perception of duality is the main sign of self-knowledge, meaning the student is asking, I don't perceive duality. That is only self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is not I perceive the self, not that. I don't see duality. I don't see the world. If that is the state of duality, that is a state of self-knowledge and self-realization, and you say the nirvikalpa samadhi state is where you don't see duality, then why not the sleep state? In the sleep state also you don't see the duality. So what is the difference? The disciple agrees the deep sleep state cannot be a state of realization. Why? Atmatatvam na janati supto yadi tada tvaya atmadhireva vidyeti vachyam na dvaita vismritihi. Atmatattvam na janati. In the state of sleep, the individual does not know the self. Yadi tada tvaya by you atmadhihi, the knowledge of the self, eva vidya iti vachyam, expressed, meaning, conclusion, na dvaita vismritihi. So the knowledge of the self alone is realization, not the forgetting of the world. Absence or not seeing the world, not seeing the duality is not realization. Knowledge of the self alone is realization. This is a doubt. A person who is sleeping does not know the self. When I am fast asleep, I am not aware of who I am. If this is said by you, then you are also coming to the same conclusion that it is not mere absence of duality, but the knowledge of the self that really matters. The teacher is saying, telling the student that you also understood it correctly now. Sometimes even with arguments, we see that we are arguing on the same lines as the other person. So the teacher says, you also have understood that self-realization is not about not perceiving duality, but realizing the self. It is a positive thing about realizing the truth or becoming one with the truth, not exactly not seeing the duality. In the deep sleep state, there may be no perception of the world, but there is no self-knowledge also. So it cannot be a state of realization, as only ignorance of oneself and the absence of the world remain. So what is there in deep sleep state? I don't know about who I am is there. I don't see the world. These two things are there in deep sleep. This is seen even in the states like a swoon, when I faint and fall in the state of a coma or under sedation or anesthetic or a drug-induced numbness. They are obviously not conditions of realization. This includes the alcoholic states where we forget ourselves, or the addictive states. People in the search for self-realization also go through all these things, which are very dangerous finally for us. So in all these states, it is not called self-realization. They are obviously not conditions of realization. So it is agreed that self-knowledge is a main factor needed for realization and not the perception of lack of perception of the world. What is required is self-knowledge and not knowing that the world is not real. It is not about that. It is about who I am. The disciple thinks of one more possibility of realization. The disciple is trying to exhaust all his doubts. Ubhayam militam vidya yadi tarhi ghatadayah ardha vidya bhajinasyuhu sakala dvaita vismrtehe. Ubhayam, both, militvam vidya, combining both the knowledge, yadi, if in case, tarhi, then, ghatadayaha, pot, etc., ardha vidya bhajinaha, entitled to be called half enlightened, 50% realized, syuhu, will become sakala dvaita vismrtehe, due to the absence of the knowledge of experience of duality. Let us just unpack this a little bit. Student is asking the doubt. True knowledge combines in itself both the knowledge of the self and the absence of knowledge of duality. The student is asking, does true knowledge combine knowledge of who I am and the knowledge of there is no duality? Are two knowledges involved in this? If you say, the reply is, if you say so, then inanimate objects like the pot, Guru is replying, inanimate objects like the pot will become half enlightened due to absence of knowledge or the knowledge of experience of duality. So even this tumbler, if you say so, enlightenment means I should know that I am real, the self alone is real, and the world is unreal. So this comes under the world. This tumbler is the world. It is unreal. So this should be half realized because it is realized that it is unreal, right? So it is not so. Half realized. The book is unaware that I am reading it. Okay. The very interesting, this Guruji's joke is there. If you say self-realization is, I know I am the self and I know the world is not real, meaning the world is the object. Here the I is the world. So the book does not know the self, but the book knows itself. It is not real. So it has got half realization? No. The Guru continues in the same humorous vein. Mashakat dhvani mukhyanam vikshepanam bahutvatah tava vidya tatha nasyat ghatadinam yatha dridham. Mashakat dhvani mukhyanam, caused by the buzzing sound of the mosquitoes. It's a very humorous way to vikshepanam. Distractions in the mind are buzzing like mosquitoes. Bahutvatah, due to frequent distractions, tava vidya, your knowledge, tatha, like that, na, not, syat, will be, ghatadinam, of pots, etc., just as dridha. Your knowledge will not be firm like the pots because there are so many distractions that are swimming, meaning the Guru is saying, there are so many doubts and thoughts in your head that your knowledge is not going to be firm like the pot. Due to the frequent distractions caused by the sounds of mosquitoes, etc., your knowledge will not be as firm as that of the inanimate objects such as the pots. They are not distracted since they have no awareness of duality. So the pots are all escaped. They don't know anything, so they can't be distracted. You are capable of knowing, and so there are many mosquitoes that are swimming around, so your knowledge is disturbed. Compared to inert objects having firm and abiding half knowledge, as they are undisturbed by external factors and never perceive duality, they may not have self knowledge, but their non perception of the world is perfect. That is, inert objects don't perceive the world. The pot does not perceive the world. Its non perception is perfect. So, is it half realized then? The disciple now gets a point, but he still has one more doubt. I mean, it is very humorous. One student was telling his music teacher, a very famous music teacher, என்னோட கண்ணாடி லூஸா இருக்கு. My specs are loose. And the teacher said, Aduma, oh, that is also loose? Meaning, your mind only I thought is loose, your specs are also loose? He's asking. In the same way, Atmadhireva vidyeti yadi tarhi sukhi bhava dushchittam niruddhyachet niruddhi tvam yatha sukham. Atmadhihi, knowledge of the self, eva vidya iti yadi tarhi sukhi bhava. If, however, you admit that with the answer given by the Guru in the previous verse, the disciple finally realizes that the realization is the main factor in realization is self-knowledge and not perceiving the duality or perceiving the falsity of the world. That is not part of self-knowledge. Knowledge of the self alone is self-knowledge. So not the perception of non-perception of the world. The Yoga Shastra lays emphasis on cessation of thoughts. Yogaha, chitta vritti nirodhaha. But Vedanta insists on self-knowledge. What is the difference between yoga and Vedanta? Yoga says the state of yoga or oneness is when the waves of thought cease. When there are no thoughts in the mind, that is a state of yoga. And then the next line is tada. At that point, I remain as a seer. Drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. But Vedanta says it is chittavritti nirodha means in the state of meditation. The mind is unmoving. The thoughts don't move. The thoughts don't engage in the world. Thoughts don't pop up. There's nothing happening. It is very, very quiet. Chitta vritti nirodhaha. But Vedanta insists on knowledge of the self. It is not only quietening the mind. I should know who I am. The direct perception of the truth and falsification of the world. So the teacher is saying, the student is finally saying, if you admit that the knowledge of the self alone is true knowledge, then be happy. We bless you. You accepted the teacher is saying, if you admit that the knowledge of the self is alone the true knowledge, then be happy. We bless you. You have accepted our position. If you say that for true knowledge to take place, the troublesome mind should be controlled, then do control the mind as you please. Now, once the true knowledge is got, if you say that the mind has to be controlled, only then I'll realize the true knowledge. So the two things are here. It is even without quietening the mind, true knowledge can be realized. It has got no connection with that. So the teacher says, if you admit the knowledge of the self alone is true knowledge, then be happy. You have accepted what we say, meaning that is what is the answer. But still, if you insist that no, I will experience a true knowledge only if I quieten the mind, then go ahead and do it. Because you need to, you want to do it, and that prarabdha is there in you, so we bless you. It is a good thing only you do. You keep doing. You quieten your mind. But how much ever the mind becomes quiet, unless the realization of knowledge happens, there's going to be the final realization is not there. There is a state of Prakriti Laya. If suppose in that state of quietness of mind, the body is dropped, that person will stay for 1 lakh years in that state itself, and then again he has to take a birth to realize the true self. Adi Shankaracharya says that one whose mind revels in the truth, whether in meditation or in enjoyment, in company or alone, he is always in bliss. Yogarato va, bhogarato va, sangarato va, sangavihinaha, yatya brahmani ramate chetam, nandati nandati nandatyeva. Nandati means happy, happy, happy. Whether the person is in yoga or whether the person is in bhoga. Yoga means in tune with the self, realize the self. Bhoga is enjoying with the world, playing in the world. But despite the two, the one who has realized the self, he may be in the state of yoga or he may be in the state of bhoga. He is nandati, nandati, nandati eva. He is just happy and joyful. Happy and joyful means giving to the world. Whatever blessings that person has sharing it with the world. Tadishtam eshtavyam Maya Mayatvasya Samikshanat Ichannapyagnyavannechet Kimichan iti hishrutam Tadishtam. That is acceptable. Meaning you go and meditate. He is blessing the student. That is acceptable. Eshtavyam Maya Mayatvasya. Essential for knowing the illusory relative nature of the world. Quietening the mind. Samikshanat. Why we are telling you, if you understand our point of view that the self has to be realized, then very good, we bless you, you have accepted. But if you say that no, 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 I want to quieten the mind, then we bless you for that also, because when you quieten the mind, it is important to know the illusory nature of this world. How can we know the illusory nature of the world? When the mind is quiet. Icchan, desiring api, even though Agnyavat, like that of an ignorant man, na icchet, will desire. Kim icchan, desiring, iti, thus, he verily shrutam. That is acceptable, since it is very well seen that this control of mind is essential for knowing the illusory nature of the world. Even though desiring, the desires of the wise man are not binding, like those of an ignorant man. When the Upanishad says Kim Icchan, desiring what? Kasya Kamaya, Kim Icchan, desiring what is that 2 words? So the wise man can desire. There is no problem in that because he has known the truth and his desire is not going to bind him. It is not like the desire of an ignorant man. This is verily revealed in the Vaidika statement. Kim Icchan, an ignorant man, the desire is binding him because he believes that only if he gets that, he will be happy. Whereas a wise man, he is not attached to that desire. If it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, he is anyway the self. So he is not concerned about it. So desiring what should be understood in this manner. For the wise man, the desire is not binding on him. Unlike for the ignorant person, the desire becomes a bondage for that person. Like desiring for a drug can bind that person to drugs. Whereas a wise man can even be given at one point of time, like there is a video on drug abuse which says that just because your grandmother had a leg operation surgery and she was given pure morphine, which is unadulterated, without any other additives that are added for drug addicts. Just because she's given pure morphine, your grandmother is not going to become a junkie. In the same way, the realized man, the self-realized person, even if he enjoys a bit of the world, he is not going to be addicted or attached to the world. Unlike the ignorant man who enjoys, he is going to be attached to the world. We will conclude this tomorrow. Mostly in the morning, I may do this for 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasorma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. हर नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव।